Well, welcome you guys and Happy New Year. It still feels like the new year, 3 days in, which is very exciting. I'm ready for 2024. And I'm excited that you're back.
Hey, here
back
we are.
Here.
It's
so
a January tradition.
It is, I know. And people love this video and we're going to keep at it because the tradition is great. So we always start the new year with a video with you and talking about things to do with our money. And so 2023 had some highs, had some lows. 2023, I think the housing market for a lot of people was probably a low. People were like, oh my gosh, what is happening? That's when the student loan, the whole thing, I guess depending on where you fall in the discussion, it was either a high or low, but people that were expecting the forgiveness did not happen in 2023. There was a lot, I just feel like, kind of going on. People, I do feel like, held their money a little bit. The scare of a recession kept looming in 2023. Interest rates were up. Yeah, it was an interesting year.
Yeah, it was. It's tough for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Student loan payments had to start back. And in some cases, the house they thought they were going to be able to do, they couldn't do. And so there's a lot of disappointment going with those two things.
For sure. But it's a new year.
Yay.
I know. So we'll see what happens because no matter what, you guys, whether it's the economy, the government, all of it, we really do believe that you can put yourself in a place today financially where you are prepared for whatever this year lies, right? And we have no idea. It's an election year too in November. So there's just a lot that could be happening. So we want to make sure that you're in a place where you feel financially secure in your own home because that's what you can control, which is huge. So we made a list of 8 things to do differently with your money in 2024. So we're going to walk through these things, make sure that you feel fully equipped to take control of your money this year. So I'll go first.
Okay.
First one, get on the same page with your spouse. This is the one that people hate me for. I had a couple of reels in 2023 about the subject and they went into the millions. And the comments were like, who is this woman? Of course a woman would say that. I mean, it was just like every comment was like rolling their eyes at me. People hate this idea of combining money with your spouse. And you guys, I'm telling you, what's so fascinating to me is people that come in and do their debt-free screams or they hit a financial goal together if they're married. We hear it all the time. They're like, we did this, our marriage has never been better. Like they put their marriage in the list when they're talking about their money. And it's funny because we're not talking about their marriage, right? We talk about money and combining things, yes, and being on the same page. But yet the outcome is that they are closer. They are closer in their relationship when they hit financial goals because they are working together because they see themselves as one. So in 2024, I would challenge you, encourage you, if you haven't already, with your spouse, get on the same page, you guys. Have a goal that you're working towards together. Combine your accounts. It's not his income, her income. Does she have the right to do this? Does he have the right to do that? I mean, all that language, throw it out the window and see yourselves as one team, because that's a key part of winning financially and it helps your marriage.
Well, the data says if you don't agree with that, you're wrong. That's what the data says. I mean, our study of millionaires found that out of all the millionaires we studied, one of the key things they said that caused them to be able to build wealth was working together with their spouse. The data says the number one cause of divorce in North America today, money fights and money problems. Well, guess what? That's people who are not aligned on where their money's going. They're not talking about it. They've not combined things. It's just like you're over there in the corner doing stupid stuff and I'm throwing grenades at you and we get a divorce as a result. So, I don't, some of you have little independence problems or you've got other kind of little philosophical issues or something, but you're just wrong. It's just wrong. Okay? It's not morally wrong. It just doesn't work.
Long term.
Okay? And the data's in.
And I always have the asterisk, you guys. If you're in a situation that there's an addiction that's not being dealt with, there's abuse.
You don't combine money with that.
Yeah. I mean, if there are things that are harmful that you have to protect yourself, we are all for that. But if you're just the run-of-the-mill couple with not a perfect marriage, but you're just doing life, you guys, combine your money. So do that differently in 2024. Next is probably one of my favorites.
Yeah. Get on a budget.
Get on a budget.
Get a plan. No one accidentally wins the Super Bowl, the World Series, or the World Cup. It's not an accident. No one accidentally is successful at business. No one accidentally has a successful marriage, and no one accidentally builds wealth. It doesn't happen. It's with a plan. And the plan on a monthly, weekly basis is called a budget. Write it down. Get on every dollar. Get on there with your spouse. Be in agreement. And when you're aligned on that, if you aim at nothing, you will hit it every time.
That's right.
And my friend John Maxwell says a budget is people telling their money what to do instead of wondering where it went. For 35 years, I've been encouraging people to do this. And for 35 years, I've been hearing people say, Dave, when we get on a budget, we felt like we got a raise. You got to try it.
Yeah, and regardless of income too, because I think some people think, well, if I make X amount, I don't need to budget. But that X amount of income that you could be using for your future needs a purpose. Like you could look up in 5 years and be like, oh my gosh, we just made a lot of money. We have no clue where it went, right? So, regardless of income, regardless of debt level, anything, you guys do a budget. It's one
our
of the
most
best
successful parts of Ramsey, tens of millions of dollars inside of Ramsey. They do a budget, a business budget. They're doing a budget on their P&L. This is what we're projecting our revenues and our expenses to be. The more money you make, the more you've got to do it.
That's right. So stay on that. All right, next is to pay off your student loans. So again, I feel like the government led us on a wild goose chase the last year or two with promises and all this stuff. But you guys, it's here. And it's one of the types of debt that I feel like people do just kind of hang on to. It's just there, I think, because it's so normal. Everyone has it. But you guys, get motivated to get this out of your life. Like, it is time. This year is time to get rid of it or to create a plan to get rid of it. And we want all of your debt gone. But for some reason, the student loan is like the sticky one. It's the one that kind of just ends up being around and people just kind of are apathetic to it. But get motivated to get it out of your life and get that payment back in your life. And you don't have to worry about student loans anymore. It's done. All right, up next is
protect the emergency fund.
Yes, people will want to dip into this.
Let me help you with this, okay? If it's not an emergency, you don't use the emergency fund. Dave, we're getting a couch. That's not an emergency. We need a bass boat. That's not an emergency. Christmas is not an emergency. It's always in December. They don't move it. It's always in the same spot. So these are not emergencies. An emergency is an unexpected event. And I can tell you this, the more planning you do, the more budgeting you do, the more margin there gets to be in your money, the less likely you are for something to be declared an emergency.
Yep.
The more likely you are to cash flow it out of the budget. I blew a tire. Well, let's cash flow that out of the car repairs instead of out of the emergency fund. But you can't do that until you've been doing this a little while.
That's right.
The more you do this stuff, the more you've got everything dialed in, the more wiggle room there is in the budget. Okay, we got a decent car repair fund over here, so we don't have to touch the emergency fund, even though that is an unexpected event for a blown tire, right? So don't mess with the emergency fund. It is not. It's there for one thing and one thing only. It's not an investment. It's insurance to give your life peace.
Yeah, and it's funny because once you have it around for a while, something does kind of like when you first have it and something happens, you're like, oh God, thank God it's there, and you use it and you got to replenish it and all of it. But once it's been there for a while and you kind of go through life, when something does come up, it is funny how you naturally are like, can we have a way not to touch it? That's how I am. I'm like, can we do anything and not have to touch that money? Because it becomes such a security to you that you're like, I don't want to touch it. So
we haven't touched ours at Sharon and Dave in decades.
Yeah.
Literally.
You still have one, which
we got lots of margin.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, we're just not as, we just don't let drama intersect our finances like we used to.
Yeah. And the margin probably creates less drama at a time.
Exactly.
For sure. So one of the things I always hate thinking about, what if something happens to me? What if something happens to my husband, Winston? What's going to happen to the family? There is a great solution, you guys, that really takes that part of worrying and stress and the not good feeling, kind of puts it at ease. And that is term life insurance. And Winston and I personally use Xander Insurance. And they're the best. They make the whole process, you guys, so easy. You give them your information and they go and they shop the top-rated companies for the best policy for you and your family's needs. So no one should go without term life insurance. So go check out Xander Insurance. Just go to xander.com to make sure that your family's future is taken care of. All right, number 5, try out a new side hustle and create more margin in your budget. So the baby steps, especially those of you that are like, okay, this year is my year. I'm going to get on track. I'm going to be doing this stuff. I'm going to follow the Ramsey baby steps. I'm going to do it. One of the best ways to especially get through your first 3 baby steps is you got to look at both sides. You got to look at your income and your expenses. But your income can change drastically. Like you can be able to say, hey, I have the power to take 4 nights a week and go do a part-time job, to take a full Saturday, maybe every Saturday for the next 5 months, and I'm going to work 8 hours. Like, you have the ability to say, hey, where do I have margin in my time that I can fill up and get that part-time job, get that side hustle? So there's so many great ways. I mean, there's so much that we talk about when it comes to side hustles. But I think one of the best things you can do is like, what are you naturally good at? What are the things that you're naturally good at that you can charge for? That you can say, hey, I can tutor. I can be, do sports is like a thing. My kids are at that age of like sports, and people pay to have someone come in and help with their sports. So I'm like, if you were an athlete back in the day, like, what do you know? What skills do you have? Like, think about what you have, anything in those streams of income. But then also, we have a great world for side hustles. So whether it's Uber, grocery delivery services, anything you can do to pick up extra money to get some extra cash, especially for those first 3 baby steps. 2024, it's your year. Get that side hustle.
Yeah, and here's the thing. 98% of the people that stand on our stage and do a debt-free scream, their income went up during the journey.
Yeah.
Which means they either changed jobs, took on overtime, and or added side hustles. So we always see an increase in income, even if it's a temporary increase, in order to punch that debt in the face.
That's right. That's right.
Prioritize contentment is the next one. Contentment, Rachel and I have written about this a lot, teaching children that. You've got the contentment journal. Here's the thing. When you don't have to have it, all of a sudden it changes everything. It might be, godliness with contentment is great gain. Contentment might be the most powerful financial principle there is. When you're content, you can avoid debt. When you're content, you can get out of debt. When you're content, you have margin to be generous. When you're content, you have margin to invest. But when you're just consume, and you're just living in the basket of materialism, that's the opposite of contentment. You can't make enough money to live like that. You can't make enough money to out earn your stupidity. And so, this idea of it's going to be okay. It's just some stuff. Get you some stuff. We're not against stuff. But this idea that stuff is going to make you happy is a joke.
Yeah, and it's exhausting, that race.
That pursuit.
It's constant, because there's always going to be something, you guys. There's always going to be something. And I think because of even social media.
It's a dopamine hit.
In our world, I'm like, you just are flooded with stuff all the time. So like, it's so tiring versus just laying it down and be like, okay, I'm done. I'm good. That contentment, it's huge. Number 7, which kind of goes into that contentment piece, is to be aware of lifestyle creep. So 1/4 of the top 10% of tax filers, so people that make approximately $175,000 a year, identified themselves as poor, very poor, or getting by, but things are tight.
And we all rolled our eyes and said, oh, brother, just then. Oh, my gosh.
So it is wild how you can just learn to live up to that edge of what you're making. I was watching, there was a reel, and it was some guy. Sorry, dude, I don't know who you are. But it was really good because he was just saying he's worth like, I don't know, $30 million or whatever he was saying. And he was like, yeah, I get the car, buy the crazy cool car, and I'm happy for a week. And then that goes down. And then I go, yeah, and he's like, I've chased. He's like, I've done it all. And it's not. And the guy interviewing him was like, so what makes you happy? It's fishing with my friends. Like when me and my buddies go out, like that's what I enjoy. Like I enjoy being with my people. Like he was just saying, it's like the stuff money can't buy. And there was something about that you think, oh my gosh, if I could just make X, and he said this, he was like, for a period of time, yeah, it's awesome. Like if you're $100,000 guy and I bump you up to 200,000, yeah, you'll be happy. But then you're going to get used to that 200,000. And then you're gonna be like, well, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? Because that finish line keeps moving. And what happens with lifestyle creep is you get that raise, you bump up the lifestyle. You get the raise, you bump up the lifestyle. And you think like, oh my gosh, I thought that raise would give me margin, give me peace, but you didn't check your spending and your lifestyle. So keeping that portion small, living below your means, you guys, if you're not doing that, 2024 is your year to do that. Lifestyle creep, it's so easy, it's so sneaky, but be so purposeful, especially if you're getting a raise, of what you're doing with that. Because if you just live up to that raise, you're gonna be in the exact position you are today.
Number 8. Buy a house only when you're ready. Calm down. Oh my goodness. People go completely berserk about buying houses. I want you to get a house. Our data says that home ownership is a key part of becoming wealthy. So long term, you need to get a home. When you buy a home improperly, it slows down your wealth building. It adds stress to your life. The home is not a blessing, it is a curse. Improperly is a couple of things. So let's just say what properly is, and then anything that's not that. Number one, you need to be out of debt before you buy a house. I don't care. You need to be out of debt before you buy a house. Period. The heat and air is going to go out. The roof's going to leak as soon as you move in, and you got payments everywhere, but you thought this house was going to be, it's not. You just added a mess to your life. If you have a student loan, Sally Mae needs her own bedroom. Don't do that. Don't buy a home until you're out of debt. The second thing is you need your emergency fund in place so that when that heat and air goes out, you can fix it, because you don't know. Home ownership is more expensive on a monthly basis than renting because the landlord fixes all the broken stuff. So it is more expensive in the short term. Over the scope of your life with the increases in values, that's where the wealth building comes. But if you're starving to death right then because you didn't have an emergency fund and you had debt, that's silly. And then when you do buy, don't buy more than a 15-year mortgage, and don't buy where the payment is more than a fourth of your take-home pay. Well, it isn't the house. I'm sorry. Buy a house you can afford. And then it'll be a blessing, and it'll be part of your wealth building plan. The problem with houses is it's such a big number that when you do it wrong, it clobbers you. When you do it right, it blesses you. There's really no middle ground. There's nobody that just goes, oh, I just squeaked by. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're going to do it right, and it's going to be a big good deal, or you're going to do it wrong, and it's going to be a big bad deal for you. So you've got to stay away from the housing market until you're ready.
So good. All right, you guys, those 8 things, hopefully you will do different in 2024 to set yourself up. But just remember these 2 things. Number 1, there's always hope. Okay, regardless of where you are financially right now, we meet people literally every single day. I mean, millions of people have walked through this plan. And can we just tell you, every income level, every debt level, every background, every marital status, number of kids, any situation you can imagine, we have seen. And every situation, some take longer than others, but they have the ability to change what they've been doing, which is number 2, that you hold the power to change your circumstances. So there is hope to that. And you have the ability to change. And change is uncomfortable. Change is hard. It's weird when you do something new. It's not fun because you're like, I don't really know what to expect. Like it just feels off, and it will feel off for a bit. But then you actually start to gain traction and you start to win. And that's what it is, you guys. And listen, yeah, life may be unfair, right? There's going to be times where things are harder, things are easier for you. But regardless of where you are, you have to start somewhere. And that is now. So use that list we just walked through. Be patient. This is a marathon. It is not a sprint. But you are able to do this. And we see it all the time. That hope and that change, it is such a reality for people. So if you need one tangible, practical step, make sure to sign up for our budgeting app, EveryDollar. This is the thing that's going to launch you into this plan, because a budget really is your roadmap. It is the thing that is going to help you day to day, literally week to week, month to month, to know where you are. And it's going to help you walk through the baby steps. It's going to help you change the 8 things we talked about here on this video. So make sure to check it out. I'll put a link in the show notes to learn more. All right, you guys. That's it. Dave, thanks for coming by again.
That was fun.
Dad, I know. I love always starting
It's our annual tradition.
The new year off with you. And we're so excited for you guys. This can be a great year for you financially. But make sure to share this video with a friend who loves setting up goals for the new year. Maybe they're kind of struggling with money and you're like, hey, here's some helpful tips. And you guys can do the journey together. So remember, you guys, to take control of your money and create a life you love.